One of the rebel groups in Ethiopia claims to have forces about 25 kilometers from the center of capital Addis Ababa and says that government troops are defecting to the rebels. Meanwhile, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, marking 1 year of war in Tigray, has pledged to bury his government's enemies with our blood. Ethiopian journalist Andualem Sisay Gessesse is in the capital Addis Ababa and joins us now for an update. Thanks very much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Peter.
All right, so we've been talking about this conflict, and by and large it has been restricted to the northern part of the country in Tigray and the immediate area surrounding. But it seems to have now tracked south and has gotten close to the capital. Just how close are the forces of the TPLF and the Oromo forces to the capital?
Well, it depends on the news media from which you get your information. If you read the news of the CNN or BBC or any of the American affiliate media, you may think that Addis Ababa is already under trouble and the rebels are already encircling Addis Ababa. But in the reality, life in Addis Ababa has been normal and it is normal. And the rebels are the ones now who are encircled in different directions. So it comes from I think the news has become more spread by the CNN, which is the American media and the foreign policy tool of the American government. So the American embassy is the ones who issued the statement claiming that telling its citizens in Ethiopia to leave the country. So it's part of the propaganda machine, which is the continued interest of the United States in the region and in Ethiopian politics in recent months. Right. As you may be aware that the U.S. has been so active in the meddling in Ethiopian politics, and it has taken the issue of Tigray several times to the UN Security Council, and that's the continuation of the system. So U.S. is trying to, in the name of mediating, is trying to bring to the table the Abiy administration and the TPLF. Which is no match for the government of Ethiopia, which is already elected by the free and democratic election. So it's part of the propaganda of the Western media and the U.S. allies, in my opinion, and they are not nearby. So they are very far. To reach Addis Ababa, they have to come about 400 kilometers from where they are now.
All right.
So it's total lies.
All right. So just to be to get the story correct according to you, you're saying that the TPLF are still inside Tigray?
No, I'm saying that they have crossed the Tigray region over the past few months. They have been in the region of Amhara region, which is in the Wollo area. And they have recently captured Dese and Kombolcha, the big cities in Wollo area in Amhara region. But still, they are in part of that Wollo area that they are fighting. Over the past few days, today and yesterday, now some of the areas that they used to control in Amhara region has been falling under the Ethiopian Federal Army. I mean, after the Abiy administration has called on the people to come together, and after the state of emergency, the defensive position of Ethiopian government, which allows them to move into the south, has now turned into an offensive, and the government has started an offensive attack in some of the areas, which used to be like Kobo, for instance, which is around in Wollo as well, and Kamise area, and areas like Haig, has now been liberated by the federal army. So it is now the TPLF which is now being encircled within the Amhara, and they cannot return back to the Tigray because we heard that they have cut the Ethiopian force, and the farmers have cut the road and encircled the TPLF now. That's why today you see in the streets of Berlin and United States, the supporters of the TPLF are now laying on the ground and crying. But 3 days ago, they were having party in those areas, claiming that they are the victory and they are getting closer to Addis Ababa. So the reality is this, that this is what's happening on the ground now.
All right, so what you're saying is that the national forces of Ethiopia are containing the TPLF forces as well as the Oromo soldiers. Is that correct?
Yes. Now, to be clear for the rest of our audience, the TPLF is the one who is recruiting this Oromo Liberation Front, a very small number, in a few thousands of soldiers, with a few thousands of soldiers, and all the 6 other rebel groups, which today signed in the Washington. Now, you see, when the U.S. Special Envoy to the Horn of Africa came today, and yesterday he was here in Ethiopia. So while he was here, today these 6-7 opposition, including the TPLF, have signed an agreement to work together and to topple the Abiy Ahmed administration. So you cannot compare the power of the federal government with the power of the TPLF or these 6 altogether, which in my opinion cannot have more than a few thousands of soldiers, to be honest. So these are more of puppets of the TPLF, which the TPLF wants them to bring in the front and claim that this is a Somali party, this is a Benishangul clan party, and this is a Agao party, and those kind of drama which they used to play. But the reality is that Ethiopian federal government, which is now getting more support than ever, because after the election especially, which has got majority vote of the majority of the people, cannot be a match for the TPLF, which claims to represent only about 6 million people of the whole Ethiopia 110 million population. So you cannot compare them either in military, in capacity, in whatever you can call it. It's not easy thing to just walk and come to the capital, passing all these hassles, and it's not something. But that is the wish of the U.S., in my opinion.
All right. If what you say is true, why would the Prime Minister call on all citizens to fight against what he's described as rebels? He says that this is to protect the sovereignty and the very existence of Ethiopia. Why would he declare a 6-month state of emergency if he was on top of the situation and was as safe as you say?
Yeah, the reason he called on the people is that Ethiopian government is not fighting with the TPLF. Ethiopian government is currently fighting with those who send the TPLF, literally with those who have interest in Ethiopian politics and in the Horn and in the overall region of the Horn Africa, which includes primarily the United States, Egypt, the Sudanese, which brought the TPLF in 1991, giving them material, logistics, and training areas like Sudan, and offices like in Khartoum, in Cairo, who gave them in Khartoum and Cairo, and brought the TPLF in 1991. So these countries once divided Ethiopia. That's why TPLF introduced in 1991, after coming to power, a new constitution and a new regional boundaries within Ethiopia, and introducing ethnic politics. So based on that ethnic politics, TPLF claimed that it represents 6 million people or 5 million by then, population of Tigray, which is found in the north. And it took some of the lands from the Amhara region, the neighboring, in order to find a border with the Sudan. It took those areas and included in the Tigray region. So that's one issue why they are fighting, where they are now at odds with the Amhara region, and which took back their area and claimed that the former map of Ethiopia says Tigray has no border with the Sudan. So this is how they orchestrated. Okay. So the division gives the American government to stay its presence within the Horn of Africa. And serve the interest of Egypt as well, because as you remember, U.S.
We're running out of time. We're running out of time, so I just have to quickly wrap this up. But so the U.S. you say has an agenda in Ethiopia, but the European Union is also threatening sanctions over the Tigray situation, and we have millions of Tigrayans now who have been displaced, and a humanitarian situation is developing on the ground. Amnesty International is reporting that Addis Ababa is seeing Tigrayans being arrested and rounded up just for being Tigrayan in Ethiopia. They've got nothing to do with the conflict. Why is the Prime Minister doing that?
I think, as I said, the report who produced these reports are all allies of the United States. The United States has already decided that Ethiopia and the Horn of Africa should be shaken and new friends should come up, because the project of the Great Renaissance Dam of Ethiopia, which is the biggest in Africa, will not be executed, so that the Egypt interest will be, which is the partner of the United States in the region, will be served, and the Chinese advance and the Chinese economic growth by investments in these countries, in Ethiopia, in Somalia, in Eritrea, and in the neighboring, will also be slowed down, so that the politics of the Horn as well, as you know, the Bab-el Mandeb area is also being flooded by the superpowers. So it's like a geopolitical war, which is being used as a starting point, using as an excuse humanitarian situation. Other than that, the U.S. has never been sympathizing for humanitarian issues or for any civilians, be it in Yemen, be it in Libya or Iraq or Afghanistan. So it's not about humanity. This is about advancing their own interests and within divided Ethiopia, and if possible, finding a small nation, puppet nation, which can serve the United States and European Union. So they fear that Ethiopia, if becomes independent and started using its resource, it will be a bad example for other African nations who may say also, we don't want your aid, we don't want your support, no, don't interfere in our politics and in our economy. So that's the fear. Why they create Al-Shabaab? That's how they create all those crises from Mozambique up to Mali, the whole region of Africa. Right. So it's in the way fighting advance of China at the same time, conquering, neo-colonizing Africa. That's part of the game,
all right.
In my opinion.
Are Tigrayans being arrested in Addis Ababa?
Tigrayans, I have friends, even journalists who are working. As long as you have nothing to do with the TPLF, which is labeled by the parliament as a terrorist group, you are still free. There is no reason you can be arrested. So you can, next time, I give you a contact of journalists.
Are Tigrayans being arrested in Addis Ababa?
No Tigrayans are being arrested if they are not associated with the TPLF, and if they are not conspiring with the TPLF to create chaos in the capital or in any other areas like they did in Desse area. For instance, Desse is occupied by the Tigrayan people who used to live within Desse city with the other community, with the Amhara. So they were the ones who helped the TPLF to conquer that city. So for that reason, there are measures now being searched in different places, and they are looking into the ID of the people and following them. If they found that there is a connection and there have been hidden operation with the TPLF connection, they will be arrested for that. Other than that, if they are innocent, they are not being arrested. And as I told you, there are Tigrayan journalists with whom I can link you next time, working for Xinhua, for instance, or Chinese news agency. I have a friend. And there are also other journalists who are working from Tigrayan ethnic group. So there is nothing to link with ethnicity.
Is there
The
going to
problem
be...
is TPLF represents only Tigrayans. So those who are sympathizing for them are Tigrayans. Other than that, you can't arrest Amara or somebody else which is not member of a TPLF. You see, the problem is the party is organized itself with ethnicity, and all the members are Tigrayans. So that's the problem also at the same time. That puts them in trouble.
We're getting a sense that a lot of hate speech is coming through in Ethiopia, anti-Addis, anti-Tigray, which is escalating and perhaps fanning the flames. Is this not further dividing Ethiopia? Even the language that you're using this evening suggests that this group, the Tigrayans, are the ones that are incalcitrant and are basically the problem in terms of this conflict with Addis Ababa?
No, as I said, if you are innocent, you shouldn't be afraid of anything. You see, Tigrayans are also Ethiopians. But the problem is, TPLF has, for the past 27 years, before Abiy came, so the TPLF said that you are the first-class citizen. Everybody is second-class. So that's why if you take like 60 or 70% of the businesses in Ethiopia, including in Addis Ababa, are owned by the TPLF associates, mainly those who are from Tigray. So still their business is there, but they lost election and they ran to the Tigray region and they said, we will come back with armed struggle and overthrow and bring back their operation, oppressing the other, all the other 100+ million people, and we want to continue the old way of divide and rule and everything. So they don't want, TPLF does not want equality. There is no other reason why they are fighting, to be honest. So if you find somebody supporting from Tigray, and if the government finds anybody conspiring to topple the government, like the US is now trying to do, then he will be arrested, definitely. But if it's safe, including with the stolen money and with all their businesses, they are still operating. Many of the businesses are still open and operating. Many factories, as I said, is owned by the Tigrayans. They are working. Many businesses are still open. The majority, as I said, the buildings that you see in Addis Ababa, I can tell you 70% is owned by them. Still, they are operating and living.
All right,
so there is no problem with such an ethnic background.
All right, so why is this conflict taking so long? How will it end? Will it be through the barrel of a gun? Will it be through negotiations? And when?
I think, in my opinion, negotiation is the best solution. But the interference of the United States, especially, I'm saying this with the reason and with facts, the interference of the United States in the internal politics of Ethiopia, including the Nile Dam and cover of humanitarian situation of Tigray, as if U.S. is more caring for Tigrayans who are married with other tribes, is the fact that complicated the issue. So if there is no foreign interference, and if the Ethiopian people who used to live together, whether it is from Tigray or Afar or Somali, have been together, the elders can settle this issue if the foreign interference, especially the United States. But as I said, the US and its allies, the Western countries, do not want that to see. So they don't want strong Ethiopia, united Ethiopia. So the agenda which they started during the Cold War, and they are replicating that same model of divided Ethiopia with a divisive constitution, which is introduced by the TPLF with the help of the Western countries, including the CIA. So they want that system to continue. That's why today they facilitated the signing ceremony of the opposition parties, of the 7 opposition in Washington, D.C. this evening, including the TPLF. So it is the interference of the foreign interference that is making it long to, otherwise TPLF has already lost the battle. They were in the mountains within 3 weeks. If you remember, last November, at the end of last November, they were all gone. And the interim administration of Tigray, which is incorporated by the people from Tigray ethnic groups, have been working to normalize the situation in Tigray region. But the U.S. started to cry out, and the UN, which is also serving as a puppet to the UN, has also begun crying. So they left the country and they regrouped. That's why things have been complicated and took long, in my opinion.
My dear brother, we thank you very much indeed for your opinion and your view. Thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
That's Ethiopian journalist Andualem Sisay Gessesse speaking to us from Addis Ababa, and he's denying everything. He says that these rebel forces of the Tigrayan Liberation People's Front says that they're far away. In fact, they've been encircled by the Ethiopian troops, and that all of the news that you're receiving is Western propaganda, and that the battle is already won, the Tigrayan forces have already been defeated, and that it's just American meddling and European meddling that's causing problems to try and stop international influence from countries like China coming into the region. So, what we know for sure is that there are millions of people in Tigray who are hungry, who are starving, who are in desperate need of aid. We know for sure that the conflict is a year old, and there are very different views on who's to blame and what's actually happening.